Good morning, Hoosier Nation. The hurrying Hoosiers up in Ann Arbor today. Indiana at Michigan. DB in the house with Archie. Archie here on the mic. DB, what's going on?
Oh, I'm fired up for today. Fired up. Done got a 2-mile run in this morning. Done took the kids to Shoney's to eat breakfast. We're dressed in the creams and crimson. We're ready to rock. We're ready to roll.
So you went to Shoney's?
Shoney's. Breakfast buffet. The breakfast of champions. Not Wheaties no more. Shoney's, son.
Well, did you get the little cakes with the strawberry frosting on the top of it?
No. French toast sticks. Chopped taters. We're ready to rock.
Yeah, I like the little cakes with the strawberry on top. So good to make you smack your mama. But we could do a podcast all about that. But we got football to talk about. Indiana Hoosiers at the Michigan Wolverines today. A lot of streaks to be had. A lot of streaks to end, hopefully. Hoosiers coming in at 3-3, 1-1 in the conference, and Michigan 5-1, coming off that tough loss to Penn State and Happy Valley in overtime last week. Today at 3:30 Eastern on the Big Ten Network, and I'm telling you what, they've really got a primetime crew for this. Matt Devlin, Glenn Mason, and John Jansen on the sidelines. I think I'm going to stick with Don Fisher, Buck Suhr, and Joe Smith for the IU Radio Network. Get it on Sirius XM Channel 85 and watch it on the Big Ten Network. But to get right in the action, DB.
Are we getting paid by Sirius now?
I don't think they're sponsored us quite yet, but we might be able to get in there. Sirius XM, whatever we can get, we'll take it. I don't mind it. But, to get into it a little bit, I mean, when you look at the tail of the tape and you put IU and Michigan side by side, to me it looks like an even matchup on paper, but the history doesn't show that, DB. Tell us a little bit about the history of Indiana and Michigan.
Well, let me tell you. The only kind of streak that I want to see continue today is if there's a beautiful woman streaking across that field. Otherwise, let me tell you, 17 straight we've lost to Michigan. Haven't won in Ann Arbor since '67. That's got to stop. But, Michigan, they do have the longest win streak of any BCS team against BCS opponents. They've won 18 straight at the Big House. Hopefully we can end that today. That'd be something if the Hoosiers are the one to end that. Michigan's all-time winningest program in history of college football. Most people think they'll probably blow Indiana out, but as you said, on paper, this looks like a game we can win if the defense can step up.
Well, there's going to be 109,000 plus almost 110,000, and you'd be able to hear a pin drop in there. The atmosphere at Michigan's not what it used to be, or I don't know what the case is, but I feel like Indiana's got a shot here. And when we get into the stats, talk a little bit about the IU offense as we come into the game. I mean, averaging over 40 points a game, but specifically Nate Sudfeld and Trey Roberson. I mean, where do you see that playing out? I think Michigan hasn't faced a running quarterback. Do you see Roberson getting more snaps than maybe he got last week against Michigan State?
Yeah, Kevin Wilson, he's hard to read. He's like a fifth grader trying to read a senior's handbook. It's hard to read, but you would think so. Michigan hasn't faced a running quarterback, a dual threat. Michigan State, they were number 1 in the country last week. We'll get a little bit easier, but Michigan's still number 13 in the country defensive-wise. Their strength is their run defense, their pass defense. I think is in about 64, I believe, in the country. It's not the strength of their team, but, Trey, he'll get on the outside. You're not going to run between the tackles too much against Michigan. I'd like to see Trey get some more snaps if he can play as well as he did last week. 3 touchdowns and only 1 pick.
Well, Michigan's got 2 of the better linebackers in the Big Ten, if not all of college football, and Desmond Morgan and James Ross III. I feel like Sudfeld's got to take advantage of that, going down the field. But you're a big proponent of moving on the ground. When you look at Tevin Coleman, he's averaging over 6 yards a carry, and he's had some big runs. But I feel we got to establish him in Houston today. We've got to be able to get our linemen get a hat on a hat and move the chains, don't you think?
Well, Houston's got to get some more carries. I'd like to see us go back to the model that's won the games. If you go back and look at the stats, Indiana, we're rushing the ball about 55 to 60% of the time in wins. Granted, we've had some blowout wins. We're burning the clock, but still, effective is effective. As you said, Coleman 6.3 a carry. Houston, he's 6.6 a tote. He's just not touching the ball enough on the ground. But that's what we have to establish there. And you want to mention the two linebackers from Michigan. They're good, but it can also be to our advantage too. Kevin Wilson, he's a scientist, drawing up plays. Maybe we can
A
exploit him,
mad
get a couple.
scientist.
Oh, maybe we can that visor. Maybe we can exploit him, get a couple mismatches. I'd like to see Wynn get matched up on one. Even Ted Bolser, I feel Bolser could abuse him in the passing game as well. Even Nick Stoner, he's probably the fastest straight ahead speed guy we got. I'd like to see him maybe get down the seam a time or two.
Well, there's no doubt on offense we have the weapons to match up with Michigan, but we flip to the other side of the ball and the defense. I mean, Tim Bennett and Greg Heban, they can't do it all, right?
No, and I like to keep my defensive backs with their names not mentioned a whole lot. Both of them. If you look, our leading tacklers are by far the linebackers and the defensive backs. Our defensive linemen just aren't making very many stops. That means they're just getting right by the linemen and they're getting to the second and third levels of the defense. And it's just, that's got to improve. Michigan does. They do have Devin Gardner. He's leading the Big Ten in all-purpose yards, and he's scored 2 touchdowns 10 of the last 11 games, eight 3 times in the last 11. I mean, 3
But
touchdowns.
he'll give it back to you though.
Oh, he'll give it back to you. He'll turn it over. 10 turnovers. The part that's intriguing me is old Brady Hoke. He's decided to go with 2 new guards for this game. I think this is something here. We can exploit that. If we can get penetration and get on Gardner, don't let him sit back there, then try to make a play when everybody's in coverage. If we can apply heat to him, I believe we can get a turnover or 2.
Well, you bring up a good point. I think there's going to have to be some turnovers forced by the IU defense, and when they get pressure on Gardner, they can't let him get outside the pocket, and 2, they can't let the pocket fold and him it collapse and him come up the middle. If he takes off running. He'll be like Bambi out there in space. He'll be running down the sidelines looking for Mama because he's going to get out there, right?
Oh, he can scoot. That's why you got to make him. If you apply pressure, make him react quick. Jeremy Gowan, the receiver, and the tight end Finches. They've caught 50 of the 90 passes for him. They've only had 2 receivers catch 3 or more passes in a game, and that's only happened twice. Once against Minnesota and once against Notre Dame. It's just, he's going to look for Gallen. He's going to look for a safety valve over the middle to tight end. If we can get pressure on him and take those guys away in the first 5 or 10 yards, we might get a turnover early. If we're going to win, they're going to have to be 2 or 3 turnovers by Michigan.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think turnovers is going to, and IU's got to hang on the football. And when you look at like we mentioned, the tail of the tape, IU puts up over 40 points a game. They rushing yards, it's basically a break even. Passing yards, they throw for over 100 yards more per game. Total plays, I think actually, IU needs to reduce the number of plays that they have and, manage a little bit more of that clock. Maybe if they can control the ball to maybe 35 minutes instead of their average at 25 minutes, don't you think that's going to play in their favor today?
Oh, I mean, it would definitely play in our favor, unless Michigan's in quick stride offense, but I just don't see that happening. I'll even be happy with 30-30. If it's 30 minutes, right there at it, I'll be completely happy with that. We haven't shown to care about time of possession. We're all about the tempo. That's fine again, but again, that's when you got better players, and obviously on paper we don't have better players than Michigan. Not saying that the analysts are wrong sometimes, but it just, on paper it's not. Hopefully we go out here and perform well. I'll take Cody Latimer over any wide receiver they have.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that. I want a big day out of Cody Latimer. I think, him and Kofi Hughes and Bolzer, they really got to come up big, and Bolzer definitely over the middle. But, Sudfeld's got to take care of the ball. When he takes care of the ball like he did against Bowling Green, good things happen. When he turns the ball over like he did against Michigan State, like he did in the trenches down there against Navy, you can see what can happen. And, yeah, he's young. He's a sophomore quarterback, but still, you're going to be playing in front of 110,000, but they got to be ready to go and right out of the gate. And, they started last week up 7-0 on a big play. But I think, I'd rather see a 10, 12, 15-play drive to start the game if we get the ball and, kind of control that, take the crowd out of it early. Yeah, I think is a big key. And when we get in the red zone, we can score. I think that's the key to it. And, don't be surprised to see a little trickeration out of Shane Wynn or maybe something on special teams. I think that could come into play. If Wynn could give us a big return, that would be big, wouldn't you think?
You stole the words right out of my mouth. I've talked with a couple inside guys, and I can assure you, IU's been working on a couple trick plays this week. If they see the right opportunity to present themselves and use them, we'll see. But they have been working on a couple reverses, maybe a reverse pass. Hopefully Michigan and Brady Hoke ain't listening to this, but We can assure you that IU has been working on some trickeration in practice. But, anything, as you said, get the lead. We got the 7-0 lead last week at 4 plays. I'll take it, and we get a 3 and out. But we just give the ball right back, and it's just you got to have some kind of time management skills. Even if you rush to the line, don't let the other team can't sub. That's fine, but stand there for 15 or 20 seconds once in a while. Let the clock run a little bit. Burn that
Well,
sucker.
I'm sure. Well, you mentioned Brady Hoke. I'm sure he's still at Shoney's and he's not listening, so I think we'll be okay there. But if you folks don't know, that's the head coach of Michigan. Breeze took a little shot at him earlier this week, so let's see. But as we come down the tail of the tape, it's prediction time, and DB, give us your prediction.
Much as I hate to say it, I just don't see us getting this win up there this week. If it was a home game, I think we would get them, or even if we was coming off a bye week. But just going to Michigan after going up there last week, big win against Penn State, going to Michigan State, losing in the kind of fashion we did when I thought we had a chance to win that game, going back up here. Gardner's good. He's a dual threat. You've seen how Navy hurt us with the run. Gardner can throw it, can run it. He leads the Big Ten in all-purpose yards for a reason. I think he's going to be too much to stop with 4 or 5 days to prepare. I like Michigan 48, Indiana 34. I do think we'll score, but I think it'll be a close game, 41-34 maybe. Michigan will punch one in there towards the end. One thing I do like though, the running back, Fitz Toussaint. He ever since he got suspended last year for the Alabama game, he hasn't been the same, and I just he's had 100 yards one time this year. And again, if you can control Gardner, if we could keep Gardner under 60 yards offense, I think my prediction might be wrong. 60 yards rushing, I should say.
And if that happens, which that's my prediction, I think it will happen, and we will control that. The defense steps up. I've been thinking about it all week. I'm going to say IU 31, Michigan 27. When I say the defense steps up, I say you got to keep them under 28. Indiana can win this ball game. They're going to make history. They've already done it once this season against Penn State.
Well,
they're
going
to do it again. They're going to. Yeah. Hey, Kate Upton ain't going to be there today, so they won't be distracted. All right.
No, I mean, right now, let's call a spade a spade. They're almost they're one of the worst. I mean, they're almost the laughing stock of defense because it hasn't improved in 3 years. I mean, let's call it out. You got to step up.
Got to step up, and they've done it. They did it against Bowling Green, so we know that they can do it. And that was a good Bowling Green team that we may see again in the bowl game, maybe in the Pizza Bowl on December 26th in Detroit. Keep your eyes on that, Hoosier Nation. But Hoosier Sports Live.
Impressive. I will give you that. Bowling Green was an impressive team. Before that game, if you go back and look at some of the predictions, some of the people were saying they were the best team in the back, better in Northern Illinois, and some had them predicted 12-0 Orange Bowl.
Wow. Bowling Green State in the Orange Bowl. Boy, I bet Miami would love that, wouldn't they?
I mean, Northern Illinois came down there last year. The boys from DeKalb came down there and got rolled by Florida State, I believe. But
yeah, that's where it's at. But hey, they were there. So, but that's a topic for another day. So, we're on record. DB says 48-34 Michigan. Archie says 31-27 Hoosiers. I'm wearing my crimson colored glasses this morning, of course, as always. And DB, you might be a little bit more realistic, but let's go with the Hoosiers. And HoosierSportsLive.com for all your pre- and post-game information with DB. He'll be working on that day and night as he does. And, on Twitter, at Hoosiers Live. Make sure to follow us out there for all the post-game information. Then coming up next week, we'll get into a lot of basketball as the football team's on break. And we'll talk about Tom Crean's appearance on the ESPNU Midnight Madness show last night. He was looking dapper as usual in his blazer and a polo. Nothing wrong with that. But he got to talk a lot about the IU program. So a lot of good things to come. So DB, thanks for joining us this morning. As always, been a pleasure. Let's go Hoosiers. Let's go get a win. Hoosier Nation. See you later. Peace.